End.
Sure did.
Good afternoon, councillors, staff and members of the community joining us here in the chambers and online. Can I please ask everyone to take their seats and make sure your phones are on silent. Welcome to the Public Forum for Monday the 17th of November 2025. Public Forum is an important opportunity for members of our community to speak directly to Council about agenda matters listed for tomorrow's ordinary meeting of Council, which will commence at 9 a.m. I'd like to remind everyone that today's forum is being live streamed. Your attendance here today is taken as consent for your image and your voice to be recorded and broadcast publicly. A recording of this forum will remain on Council's website for at least 12 months. In the chambers today, we have Councillor Julie Coburn, Councillor Alexandra Wyatt, Councillor Dean Saul, Councillor Ben Pakes, Councillor Noel Selby. And joining us online, we have Councillor Adam Matchett, Councillor Arthur Bain, and Deputy Mayor Annette Lawrence. And from Council staff, we're joined by Mr. Andrew Medal, our Chief Executive, Mr. Wesley Trotter, Director of Utilities, Mr. Daniel Thorogood, Director Corporate and Commercial, Mr. Stephen Beasley, Acting Director Operations and Planning, Ms. Vicky Thomas, Group Manager Governance and Information Services, and Mr. Wayne Douglas, Group Manager, Corporate Performance. We have no apologies for today's public forum. I'd like to acknowledge country before we begin. Kempsey Shire Council acknowledges the land of the Dunghutti Nation. We pay respect to elders past and present and to emerging leaders who continue to guide us into the future. We also acknowledge the stolen generations and the ongoing need to create inclusive and culturally safe spaces for all. This land always was and always will be Dunghutti land. As we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that the public forum is a respectful space. Speakers are encouraged to share their views openly, and we ask that everyone listens with courtesy and consideration. Council values hearing from our community, and while opinions may differ, respect for one another allows us to have meaningful discussions that strengthen our Shire. I'll now call for any conflicts of interest from councillors. Councillors, do you have any conflicts on the matters before council tomorrow? I hear none. I will now move to the public forum guidelines. I'll now invite our Chief Executive, Mr. Andrew Medal, to outline the guidelines for today's public forum.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Public forums are to be chaired by the Mayor or their nominee. Each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to address the Council. This time is to be strictly enforced by the Chairperson. Speakers at public forums must not digress from the item on the agenda of the Council meeting they have applied to address the Council on. If a speaker digresses to irrelevant matters, the Chairperson is to direct the speaker not to do so. If a speaker fails to observe a direction from the Chairperson, the speaker will not be further heard. A councillor, including the Chairperson, may, through the Chairperson, ask questions of a speaker following their address at a public forum. Questions put to a speaker must be direct, succinct, and without argument. Speakers are under no obligation to answer a question put under the previous clause. Answers by the speaker to each question are to be limited to 1 minute. Speakers at public forums cannot ask questions of the Council, councillors or Council staff. When addressing the Council, speakers at public forums must comply with this code and all other relevant Council codes, policies and procedures. Speakers must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleging breaches of the Council's code of conduct, or making other potentially defamatory statements. If the Chairperson considers that a speaker at a public forum has engaged in conduct of the type referred to in the previous clause, the Chairperson may request the person to refrain from the inappropriate behaviour and to withdraw and unreservedly apologise for any inappropriate comments. Where the speaker fails to comply with the Chairperson's request, the Chairperson may immediately require the person to stop speaking. The previous clause does not limit the ability of the chairperson to deal with disorderly conduct by speakers at public forums in accordance with the provisions of Part 14 of this code. Where a speaker engages in conduct of the type referred to in the previous clause, the general manager or their delegate may refuse further applications from that person to speak at public forums for such a period as the general manager or their delegate considers appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Medal. We have one speaker registered for today's public forum. I'll now invite our speaker, Mr. Lindsay Kay, to address the forum to speak against item 10.8, potential service level engagement. Kay, when you're ready.
Councillors, citizens, how many times do I have to make this address? I could have pulled up a previous speech to speak in regard to this motion. So I'm going to try very hard not to repeat myself, but that does indicate that it appears that we aren't actually listening. This has been a long process to get to this point and to have the response from council to be, oh, well, let's just forget about it. Too hard, too difficult, too not what we want to do. Nah, not good enough. And it's not good enough for a number of reasons. But let's start with the simple ones. I've spoken about this before. As it stands with the current process, we are not meeting even the lowest bar. We have never had enough responses to the Micromess survey to gain statistical significance. And that means we cannot trust the data. It means that we need to be engaging more with the public. And if we are currently failing with the current tools we are using, we need to improve what we're doing somehow. Now, I realise that cost is an issue, but it has to be said that $30,000 is a bit of an odd figure. It's like enough money, so if we're going to be saying we're doing it tough, that seems like a lot of money to spend. But in the broader scheme, it is more or less a rounding error. And if it was to improve our performance even minutely, it would be a sound investment. And if you compare it to, say, the $100,000 that we gifted the cinema for the provision of a community notice board, which I would like to say hasn't been in operation for the last month. So we don't seem to be getting very good value for our money there. And the response, it investigated one option. Well, apparently there were two people who were asked to quote, and they came up with a similar figure or the same figure. It's not clear in the report whether the cost was a single figure. The existing survey is why this keeps coming up. And in the report or the business papers, it mentioned additional data reflecting on some of the information, but it doesn't say how this was obtained. Which brings me to alternatives. I have previously suggested a number of alternatives that could be implemented without significant expense to the council. And this is personal collection of data with volunteers. Why not have people go to where the people are and collect the information directly from the people? How we go about doing that could probably all be done with a very minor amount of organisational effort and volunteers. And I have previously, and I'll put my hand up again, I volunteer. I will help frame, I will draft the questions. I will look at all of the statistics. I will go out personally with my clipboard and ask people where the people are. That way we can drive more engagement, which is what we desperately need, so we can meet even the small requirement of meeting statistical significance. Perhaps we could include a questionnaire with the rate notice. So if people want to, they can be reminded that they get a say and that this gets sent to them with the rate notice. We certainly seem to be able to find other things to send out with rate notices. Why not a questionnaire? And collect it during normal business, information during normal business, and we collect that information in context of what someone is already doing business with the council for, or by inference in how they are interfacing with the council. So there are many ways that we could be collecting data that we're currently ignoring, except for when we write reports about how we should not be doing it. It's a bit of a head scratcher. It comes down to trust and public reputation and our history. When I have asked people in the community to provide me with data, I have been deluged with it. It's not like they're not willing to share, it's just they feel that they have shared in the past and gotten nowhere. That's not how you get a repeat response. And probably most importantly and most frustratingly is let's do this, maybe not, let's have a report, let's consider it another time, let's have another think about it, let's scratch our bum a couple of times. Where's the urgency? This is how to save money. If saving money is not this council's #1 priority, and any means we have of getting towards those savings isn't being examined, isn't being delved through thoroughly and using all of the resources, including the community available, I really don't know what to say to you today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kay, for your presentation today and making the time. Is there any questions from councillors to Mr. Kay? Councillor Wyatt.
It's a two-part question. Firstly, have you been in Kempsey Shire for a very long time, like 15, 20 years?
Getting on for 30.
Okay. My follow-up question is, I recall a survey being done when I first came to town in around 2003, 4, 5, somewhere around there. Do you recall that survey? Do you recall ever being surveyed about services for council?
I honestly can't remember. So sorry, don't know.
Are there any further questions, councillors? I hear none. Thank you for taking the time to register and speak with us today, Mr. Kay. Your contributions help us inform our decision. Voices are part of our conversations. Much appreciated. Thank you, councillors, staff, members of the public and anyone watching online. This public forum is now closed.